Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 422. So, the lady of complaint, Ghislaine Maxwell, is at it again. Her and her legal team are attempting for the third time to try and get bail. We know that the first two attempts went up in flames, and it was spectacular to watch. Now, with this third attempt, she's coming back with a few new wrinkles, folks. You know, usually she just packages the same stuff over and over, but this time she's also offering up her citizenship. She's saying that she'll get rid of her citizenship in England and in France and just be a citizen of the United States if they would just grant her bail. Well, unfortunately for her, I have a funny feeling that this approach is not going to work either. Ghislaine Maxwell just needs to face the reality that she is going to be in prison for a very, very long time. Say she did get bailed out, right? Say she found a way to get bailed out. Her trial is in December. It's coming up real quick, folks. And once the parade of witnesses is brought out and brought before a jury, Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team are in for it. That's why you see them right now going so hard in the paint. That's why you see them going tooth and nail with these technicalities to try and get her off. They don't want to talk about her innocence in front of a jury. There's no way they want that to occur. Unfortunately for them, there is nothing that can stop the momentum of this train from coming at this point. Now, for all of these years, they found a way to avoid Ghislaine Maxwell and the rest of these people being brought before the man, right? These people found a way to avoid questions, found a way to avoid being involved in this, and, with a lot of help from the legacy media, found a bit of solace amongst the storm. Well, guess what? The eye of the storm has moved, and now you're right in the middle of it, Ghislaine, and you don't like it, do you? Well, unfortunately for you, this is just the beginning, and all of your ridiculous attempts to try and get bail, to try and get out of jail, to try and make it seem like you're catching a raw deal, none of it, in my opinion, is going to work. So, with that in mind, let's jump into the article from ABC News, and let's see exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team are attempting this time. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell, associate of Jeffrey Epstein, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, and bipedal serpent, requests release on bail for the third time. Third time? I guess they think the third time is a charm? I mean, I know if I was Judge Nathan and I saw this coming across my desk, I would quickly pound a couple of espressos, then gleefully deny her requests. And furthermore, I'd have a great time rubber stamping it, because this is it's ludicrous at this point. They're not offering anything new. They're not bringing anything new to the table. And all they're doing is recycling old arguments, hoping something will stick. They'll add a couple of new wrinkles, like trying to get rid of Maxwell's citizenship, which is not as easy as all of that, by the way, and we're going to touch on that as well. But besides that, this is just repackaged, recycled garbage. So let's jump into this article from Aaron Katersky, and let's see what's up. Ghislaine Maxwell offered to renounce her British and French citizenship and put her assets into a monitored account Tuesday as she tried for a third time to get released on bail. Well, first, let's talk about the accounts, okay? That's fine. You have your money monitored. Great. The money we know about. How much money is stored offshore? How much do you have in crypto? How much do you have under your bed? You know, it's one thing to say, oh, well, look at their tax return. That's how much money they made. Well, that's how much money they claimed. That's not how much they made, right? So we don't really know how much money Ghislaine Maxwell has. And of course, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. But when you have a track record of lying and you have a track record of being deceitful, well, the government has to go about their business with that in mind. So Ghislaine Maxwell, it's not like she's this upstanding citizen. There's never been anything untowards around her. She's never been involved in scandal. How dare you keep somebody like that in jail without a hearing? Nothing like that at all. We're dealing with a monster here, folks. A monster that allegedly, according to a ton of people, not only helped Jeffrey Epstein facilitate this human trafficking ring, but also took part in the abuse of these girls. So you better have a damn good reason if you're going to release somebody like that back out into the population. And unfortunately for Maxwell and her team, they do not have the goods. They do not have what it takes to get Maxwell out. And the whole situation with the citizenship, you can't just say, all right, well, I'm giving up my French citizenship. The French government has a say in that as far as I know. And for instance, so they also reserve the right to examine the motives of a citizen in France if they want to get rid of their citizenship. Say you want to get rid of your citizenship for tax purposes so that you don't have to pay the taxes. They can deny you the removal of your citizenship. So in this regard, would the French government even be okay with Ghislaine Maxwell getting rid of her citizenship? I highly doubt it. They take a look at it and they'd say, well, you're trying to get rid of your citizenship here. You're trying to forfeit your citizenship here because it's a boon to you at this point, because you think it will help you. And I would hope that the French government would look at it that way. I mean, if that's the way they'd look at it for tax purposes, then you would think when it comes to something like this, it would get the same kind of treatment, right? I would hope anyway. Again, I'm certainly no French law professional by any means. I'm lucky I know the law in America, the little bit that I do. But when you look at how the French government works with citizenship and you do a little bit of research on it, well, it's not that easy. You can't just show up one day and be like, all right, I'm renouncing my citizenship. Here you go. That's not how it works. So her and her lawyers and the legal team, you know, that's all fine and well. It's nice to say that. But how do we even know that the French government would be okay with it? You know, there's a lot of moving parts here, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And Ghislaine Maxwell, the lady of complaint, Ghislaine, and her legal team, they're going to try and muddy those waters. And they're going to try and find the technicality however they can, right? Basically, at this point, they've thrown away the fishing poles. And they're just shoving their arms into rocks, into holes in the water right now and doing some noodling. Maxwell has been held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since her July 2020 arrest on charges of aiding Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex trafficking of minors. Yeah, she belongs there. Hate to tell you, that's my opinion. Again, I'm certainly not a journalist. I'm not a law professional, none of that. Just a concerned citizen with a few opinions. And from where I'm sitting, this lady belongs in that jail cell forever. The charges carry a presumption of pretrial detention. And while the judge has previously ruled that Maxwell is a flight risk and there are no conditions that could ensure her future court appearances, her attorneys proposed 2 additional conditions. And again, they're getting paid a ton of money, right? These lawyers. At the end of the day, they don't care if this stuff is successful or not. They're being paid to put up a defense, and they're going to go through every last layer that they can possibly find to try and get her off. Every technicality you can possibly imagine. And so far, the prosecution, and Allison Moe especially, has been up to the task. So I really hope we see that going forward, that the prosecution stays ahead of the game here and they don't get outmaneuvered by Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers. Certainly hasn't seemed the case thus far, and moving forward, I just don't see how Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers have enough wiggle room to even do that. It would have to be an epic blunder by the prosecution at this point. So this whole entire attempt here by Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team to flip the script once again and get her bailed, I don't think it's going to work, folks. Now, again, I certainly don't have a crystal ball, and there might be things that I'm missing from a legal aspect. But I think we have a pretty good track record here on the podcast of calling things for what they are. Miss Maxwell will renounce her French and British citizenship to eliminate any opportunity for her to seek refuge in those countries if the court so requires, defense attorney Bobby Sternum said. And again, Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team can't just get rid of her French citizenship. There's a process that goes along with that. I did a little bit of research into that today, and obviously, once again, just so we're clear, I am not some sort of expert in the French legal system. But from the research that I did, it is not just as easy as showing up one day and saying, all right, I'm no longer a French citizen. So, nice words from her attorneys, right? Pretty flowery prose, but at the end of the day, sometimes the spaghetti just don't stick to the wall. The second condition would put her and her husband, your cousin from Boston's, assets into an account monitored by a retired federal judge and a former federal prosecutor. Oh, well, obviously we can trust them because, the federal prosecutors in this case especially have been so fantastic. What? No, absolutely not. I don't care if she puts her money into an account and it's monitored by Gandhi, Jesus Christ, and Buddha themselves. This lady is not trustworthy, and she should not be given bail. Her crimes are so draconian, the alleged crimes that she has committed, that she does not even deserve to have this conversation 3 times going up for bail. Now, I know people out there who are listening to this podcast have friends and loved ones who did some dumb shit probably and got caught up in the legal system. How many chances did your friends and family have at bail? How much money did your friends and family have to coordinate their defense? Or, like in most cases, where they served up some overworked public defender who didn't have a strategy or a plan and his only idea was to plea out? How many of people went that route as opposed to 3 times bail, a computer in their cell, all the other nonsense that Maxwell gets? So please save the whole entire shtick about her catching a raw deal. There's an exception for the money already set aside to pay for her criminal and civil legal case fees, which has previously been disclosed as $7.6 million, and a $450,000 in a personal account for her husband's living expenses. So Scott Borgerson needs $450,000 to live? Must be nice. Must be nice to have that kind of life where $450,000 is in your personal expense account. How much you got under the bed there, my cousin from Boston? See, I don't trust any of these people. And for them to say, oh, this is how much money I have, I just don't buy it. I really don't buy it. How thorough has prosecution been here? Is there a forensic accountant on the case? I'm sure there is, but we haven't heard about that. I would think that the court would appoint a forensic accountant and let the forensic accountant go to town on all of these financials. Not because they want to let her get off, right? But if she's putting all of these financials out there, they should all be gone through with a fine-tooth comb. How much of this money originated with Jeffrey Epstein? How much of it was ill-gotten gains? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell's bank account not frozen? If she was a drug dealer from Compton, yeah, guess what? Her accounts would be frozen. If her last name ended in a vowel and she was from Staten Island, her accounts would be frozen. Why are her accounts not frozen, and why is she allowed to mount this gigantic legal offense? She should have a public defender. To deny Miss Maxwell bail when such extraordinary and restrictive conditions are available would be a miscarriage of justice, Sternum said. Now, the only miscarriage of justice here was what has occurred for all of these decades. Your client, Miss Sternum, is exactly where she belongs. And I'll go even further. I'd love to have you come on the podcast and explain to us why she doesn't belong there, okay? And really explain to us. With me challenging you, of course, right? No free passes here on this podcast. But let's be real. Let's get down to it. She should not get bail. She is a threat to leave, and who knows what else she could get up to with all of her connections. Maxwell is set to stand trial in July on allegations that she enabled and, in some cases, participated in Epstein's sexual abuse of 3 then minor girls in the 1990s. She also faces 2 counts of perjury for alleged false statements in civil depositions in 2016. Maxwell has entered not guilty pleas to all charges. So again, the perjury charges, she's a proven liar, can't believe anything she says, right? Or at the very least, an alleged liar, we shouldn't believe anything she has to say. And her whole entire history has been built on these lies. So why would anyone believe anything that this lady is serving? There was no immediate response from prosecutors who have previously opposed Maxwell's attempts for release on bail. Oh, I'm sure they're working on their response as we speak. One thing I will say is, and you all know how I feel about the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons and all of that, I am not a fan. I don't feel like they conduct themselves correctly. I feel like they target people for the wrong reasons. I feel like the whole entire organization has been politicized, and it's been politicized for way too long. But in this instance, I believe that Allison Moe is somebody with some integrity. And I believe that she's doing the right thing, and she's working as hard as she can to bring prosecutions in this case. U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan denied Maxwell's second attempt at pretrial release in late December, saying none of the new information altered the court's previous determination that Maxwell posed a flight risk. And it's the same story here, right? Repackaged, retread, a little bit of a bow on it, and regifted. That's what this is. It's like a Seinfeld episode, right? The regifting episode, that's what we have here. The offense conduct outlined in the indictment remains incredibly serious. The evidence against the defendant remains strong, and the defendant continues to have extensive financial resources and foreign ties, prosecutors said in December, opposing her second request for release. And again, just getting rid of your citizenship doesn't get rid of all of your ties, doesn't get rid of all the friendships you've made and all of the people that are willing to continue to protect you. So how does the government and the people of the United States protect themselves from that? There's no guarantee you can give us. Maxwell, in a filing last week, said she was withering in jail from conditions she described as needlessly harsh and from one instance of being physically abused during a pat-down by guards. Oh, yeah. Physically abused, huh? I think I stated this when we talked about that. You been to the airport lately? Have you had a pat-down by the TSA? They get all up in it, folks, all right? So I don't want to hear shit about Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a prisoner of the state, talking about pat-downs when I, a free man, supposedly, walk through a metal detector in the airport and then get basically sexually assaulted by some person who is employed by the government, right? All right, I get it. I acquiesce and I give up those rights when I decide to fly. All part of it. That's why I don't put up a big stink when it's happening. I get it. Ghislaine Maxwell, same story. Set of rules that you have to follow. Maybe you have a shank stash somewhere, all right? People gotta check you. That's how it goes. Since July 6th, her attorney said Maxwell has been physically searched 1,400 times, has had her sleep disrupted, and has spent increasing amounts of time in her isolation cell. Oh, wah! This is me playing the world's smallest violin right now, okay? Maxwell feels she is detained under the control of the Bureau of Pretrial Punishment, the attorney's letter said. Nope, pretrial safety, all right? You can't be released into the general public, okay? Do you know why? Because if you got released to the main line, you would be assaulted, beat, abused, and it would be a whole thing again all over, recycled from when Jeffrey Epstein died. So no, you're going to be handled with kid gloves, you're going to be kept in solitary confinement, and then, after you're convicted, if you want to go to the main line, let's see how quickly your lawyers are going to jump and ribbit like some frogs to try and get you in general pop after you're convicted. Let's see how quickly the tune changes. Maxwell, the daughter of the late British press baron and scumbag Robert Maxwell, was born in France on Christmas Day in 1961. Citizenship is a precious and priceless asset. Miss Maxwell's decision to give up citizenship from the country of her birth and the country of her upbringing demonstrates her earnestness to abide by the conditions of her release and underscores that she has no intention to flee and reflects her deep need to communicate freely with counsel to prepare for her defense, Sternum wrote. Oh, give me an effing break. If she was so gung-ho about being an American citizen, why didn't she get rid of this French citizenship a long time ago? Why are you a citizen in 3 different countries if you're so uber American all of a sudden? It's because you're not. The only reason you're even thinking or talking about reneging on your citizenship to France is because you believe it's a boon to you and you believe it will help your case. Well, I'm not buying it, and I highly doubt the French authorities will either. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow morning and we'll start this whole entire thing up again. Have a great night, everyone.